All right, Trade Pros, welcome. We are live. Welcome to today's midday futures update. This is Mark coming at you guys from our headquarters here in Toronto, Ontario, on this lovely Tuesday, June the 25th, 2016. Just coming into the last week of trading here for June, and a little bit of a better market today for us guys. Yesterday was pretty choppy, not the most fun to trade, kind of like watching paint dry, but that is part of the game. This is one of the reasons why, following multiple assets will help you out in days when your primary asset is consolidating. There's not much movement. I think it was stuck in around a 3 or 4 point range yesterday, which was not the most fun, but there was opportunities elsewhere. Whereas today, pretty good opportunity in both crude oil and in S&P 500 futures. I'm just looking at a level we've got here, and should be coming into take profit quite shortly on this long idea. So that's good on that front. Elsewise, we've got quite a few economic events on the agenda for today. We already had a few, and it's kind of the title of this video. We've seen U.S. equities kind of slide today on the back of some U.S. Data disappointing. What did we have? We had FOMC member Williams spoke at 8:45 a.m. We had the HPI, the Home Purchasers Index, I believe, overnight. Which one was this? Yeah, we had the April FHFA House Price Index month over month figure came in at 0.4% versus 0.2 expected. Bit of a beat on that front. We had April S&P Case-Shiller month over month came in at 0 versus 0.10 expected. Year over year came in at 2.54% versus 2.5 expected. NSA index 215.68 versus 215.61 expected. So those ones were relatively light impact. We did have a medium impact Richmond Manufacturing Index come in as well today. That came in at 3 versus 2 expected. The number of employees also came in at 2 versus 17 prior. We had June consumer confidence. This number came in at 121.5 versus 131 expected. That is our lowest reading since, drumroll, September 2017. So big miss on that front. That was a high impact event, and we did see a bit of a sell-off on the back of that front. The last bit of news that came out was the new home sales. Again, a lighter impact event. That one was also a pretty nice miss. 626,000 came in versus 684,000 expected. Supply up and prices fall. Supply and demand 101. Trump also tweeted today, any attack by Iran on anything American will be met with great and overwhelming force. In some areas, overwhelming will mean obliteration. So a little bit of tough talk on that front there from Mr. Trump. And that is basically all that I'm seeing as far as what has happened. We still have a couple of speakers up on the docket from the Fed, most notably our good friend, Mr. Fed Chair Powell, speaking at 1 p.m. Eastern. That is likely going to cause some volatility in those markets. So, it's been a little bit choppy here as we've come into these lows around those 36s. That's the level we were mentioning was likely to hold, since that was a key previous swing low, and you'll see that level on the pivot charts. Outside of that, we've got, like I said, Fed member Powell speaking at 1. We also have FOMC member Bullard is up on the docket at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, so into the Globex session. So won't really affect what we're seeing here during the U.S. cash open. However, you might see a little bit of volatility on the back of that speech around 6:30 p.m. So with that being said, you guys are now fully caught up on the headlines, some of the economic releases from this morning, and what to expect going into the latter end of the session. So at this point, let me switch on over to my charts, and we'll take a look at what the quote board is showing us. Then we'll take a quick peek at the pivot charts and run from there. So pen tool is up top. You've got SPOOs. SPOOs, 700,000 contracts on the session so far. Relatively light volume compared to the previous weeks where we've been seeing around 1 million to 1.5 million. And so relatively lighter on the session. However, we are still seeing a little bit more direction than we had yesterday. Nice big sell-off on the open. Came into that overnight low. We kind of consolidated here a bit, but ultimately got the breakdown from there. Rotated back up. We had a chance to short that overnight low again. And recently, we just signed out of the elite room where we were saying 36 looks a little bit, oversold. A lot of sellers coming in. You could look for potential rotation. And I think the 36 halves is where we called that long. And now we're up in those 43 quarters. So any profit, should have been taken by this point, since that was just a fade within the context of some bearishness. So that's what we've got on the SPOOs, down 0.38% from previous day close. Previous day close came in around the 50 halves. Last traded price, 41s. So that's where that daily change percentage comes from. Crude oil, on the other hand, 515,000 contracts, just about on pace for average. Daily change percentage up 0.35%. Previous day close came in at those 57.75. Our last traded price 58.09. That gives you your daily change percentage. So liquidity in crude looks to be about on average. Liquidity on SPOOs looks to be a little bit less than average. So something to keep in the back of your mind. Now let's take a look at the pivot charts. You can see crude just in a super choppy consolidation here between these 58. We'll call them the 58.40s and these 57s. Overall, still a bit. Let's see if I can roll back here. Still looking pretty. Still looking pretty bullish here. If I just hide these pivots, that's what the structure is showing you at the moment. We are kind of coming into previous highs, right? And we are seeing this kind of consolidation right into those previous highs, but we also are showing bullish structure here. So let's see what it looks like if I can zoom out even more. No, not really. That's fine. So, at the moment, it could see some supply coming in around that $60 level, but really up until then, market is kind of bullish and just look to pick up support for press back up to that $60 handle. That's what I'm seeing on there. If I throw the pivots back on, what you will see is we are currently above the S1 or above the pivot, trading around yesterday's R1 range here. All right, didn't quite reach R1 today, rotated back down to the pivot. We've seen that pivot broke into the upside, held it as support once, rotated up, held it as support twice, rotated up again. So the pivot is holding as support. Those are your 57.60s, right? If it rolls back down, you can look to pick it up again. So we've just kind of been hovering around this range between the R1 and that pivot. You can look to continue playing that range. We had one of the guys in the room just before I signed off, caught a nice little short from those 30s. And, bit of a fade, just considering the fact that overall structure is a bit bullish. But that was a great level to do so. Waited for those previous highs, came in, and then got the nice sell-off. And so now, it's coming into support structure. Since we are still bullish, we'd be looking for this level to hold. This is also your open, which, today hasn't really been holding much. It's kind of been, price has been dicing through it and around it. So if it comes in, starts finding some support, could look to pick it back up for another run to these highs. And if it comes back up here and we see another failure, then you can look to fade it back down into those 58s. So that's what we'll be watching for on the SPOOs or on the crude oil market. On the SPOOsh, as mentioned, bit of a bearish day, opened up right around these. I think my print was around the 51s. Sell off right off the open into the overnight low. Little bit of a bounce, couldn't quite get back up into our level, but I caught the short up there just on the break of that previous swing high wick, traded it back down to the downside. And then, we're looking for another rotation up into that zone. Didn't quite get it, kind of failed before it reached us. Sold down into these 36s. Now we found some support at those 36s. And the reason why I think this is such a key level is for the pivot. on the pivot chart. So on the pivot chart, this guy is a 1 hour bar chart. What will happen if I zoom out here for you guys? You will see we are quite a bullish trend, higher lows, higher highs. We've recently broken out of that range, right? We had one test, two tests. That was a breakout right there. After the breakout, we've rotated back down into that level, held it as support, and brought it back up to the top of the range. Since then, we've just been hanging around within that range. So this level becomes a key line in the sand here. You can see 1, 2, it's held as a flip zone here, support, right back into it as 4. Will it hold this time? And will we get that move back up to the top of the range? I don't know for certain, but if I was to take an educated guess, this is where I would imagine we'd start seeing buyers coming in and defending this level. As you know, a break below here will likely get us down into these low, into these 2920s. And from there, it's, a stone's throw away from the 2900. So really wanting to see how the bulls defend this level here. If they do come in, support it. Like I said, expect the press back up to the top of that range. So kind of echoing that, this is what the S&P 500 chart looks like. Obviously coming out of a big bullish trend. I'm just seeing this as a big consolidation from between this level and this level. We traded the top of the range, neutralized some of the bulls up here on that breakout. Now we're coming back to the bottom end of that range. Didn't quite get below that previous low, so it wouldn't surprise me to see us trade into that and then get a quick recovery back up, rotate back in here, find this as support, and then start working our way back up to the top of that consolidation. So that's what I'll be watching for personally, and that's what I'll leave you guys off with to end this update. So with that being said, let's go into the final part of the agenda. Just losing my words here. We've got our TRADEPRO Performance Index. So today's session, that was the 25th. Great bounce back from the last 2 days. Friday was quad, which generally tends to be a bit more difficult to trade. So much so, in fact, that our head trader, George, often takes the full day off on those Fridays to stay out of that chop. So that was the result we had on there. On Monday, yesterday, the Monday after quad, which also tends to be a little bit quieter, added to the fact that we had no economic releases on the docket, and there was no squawks came through on the new squawk too. So very quiet day. Also, the open came in with around 200,000 contracts of volume, very light volume to start the session. So we kind of had the early anticipation of a choppy day, and oh boy, did it ever deliver. And that's kind of what you're seeing these 2 days. The choppy days tend to be a little bit more difficult, especially for the newer traders in our community. But overall, we're still seeing positive results on those days. So great news on that front. And today, a little bit more direction. So of course, the room did really well in the session today. 3 more days left in June, and we look to close them out on a strong note into July. So that's going to be everything for me today. If you guys are enjoying that, please do let us know. How you can do that is by liking, by commenting, by subscribing to the channel, and by referring our channel to your friends or colleagues, anyone that's looking to get into the world of trading, especially as it relates to day trading. That's really our specialty. But we do accompany, or rather we do help anybody, swing traders. We do options trading. We do Forex swing trading. So not specifically day trading, but that is where our majority niche holds, where our niche stays. And we've also got some great supplementary courses as well for those traders looking to do this more passively and looking to build passive income, as they're getting their trading journey underway. And then once that passive income starts to kind of match or even surpass their active income, that point, we we get a lot of traders that transition from swing trading into day trading and then take advantage of the futures markets for the awesome opportunity that they do provide. So I'm gonna stop blabbing. I'm catching myself losing train of thought, and that's generally a sign that I should be signing off as well. So with that being said, if you will be trading to the latter end of the session, you know the 3 rules: remain patient, remain diligent, and remain disciplined. That's all from me, guys. Good luck and good trading. Till tomorrow, take care.